Hello, everyone, and welcome to another season of Cowboys Special Edition brought to you by AT&T. I'm your host, George Reba. Thanks for joining us. If you're a football fan, the events you've been waiting for are almost here. Next week, the Dallas Cowboys will travel to Oxnard, California to begin another training camp. It's a time of year that's always full of anticipation and a time for new beginnings. It's been a busy offseason, one that has seen the departure of familiar faces like Jason Witten, Des Bryant, and Orlando Scandrick. We begin our first show by sitting down, like we'll do every time at this week, with Stephen Jones. Here now is Nick Eatman from DallasCowboys.com.
Thanks, George, and you're right. I'm here with Stephen Jones as we're getting really close now to the training camps. The football season's coming here. Thanks for joining us, though. We know you're really busy.
Well, it's great to be here. I know I'm getting fired up about the upcoming season, and we've got a really good young football team in terms of the number of players. Will and I were kind of going over that during OTAs and minicamp, and we figured this may be the most new players we've ever had on the 90. I think 45 of the 90 have never put on a football helmet with a star on it until this spring and summer. And so, that makes me excited that you've got young guys who are hungry. They're ready to compete. They're going to push for spots. There's some spots open when you have the likes of the Tony Romos and the Jason Wittens and the Des Bryants who have moved on. Then that certainly creates opportunity not only for spots to play, but also leadership spots. And so I see the people there, though. I see players there. I see men there that can do that and can do it in a big way and really get us kicked off the right way.
You mentioned Witten there. The last time we went to a training camp that didn't include Jason Witten, Emmitt Smith was on the team. We were going to San Antonio in 2002. So it's been obviously, you talked about leadership. It's going to be hard to replace that kind of guy. Is there a player or two or 14 or whoever that can replace Jason Witten's leadership?
Yes, I do think that. We don't have a high pick, so people are concerned that have come in behind Jason. Obviously, we picked Schultz with the fourth round pick this year. But we have a couple guys on the roster, in particular Blake Jarwin from Oklahoma State. He was a receiver when he first went to Oklahoma State and then developed his body into a tight end. And we saw a lot of things in the OTAs and minicamp with him stretching the middle of the field that lead us to believe that he can make some big plays in there. Same thing goes for Jeffrey Swain. He's probably the most versatile guy. He's not only effective catching the ball down the field, he runs good routes, but he's probably one of our best blockers as well. And then, of course, Schultz comes from a pro-style offense. And he fit in right away in terms of knowing the blocking angles, knowing what he needed to do. And he's more efficient than you might think catching the ball.
Talking about leadership, though, there's a few times in the OTAs and in the minicamp where you could really see Dak Prescott taking more of that role. He's not afraid to get on those offensive linemen when they do a false starter. Is that the type of leadership that you're looking for? I mean, in year 3, this has got to happen for Dak.
Well, people have asked me who's going to be the next, who's going to step up for Jason Witten. Is it Zeke? Is it an offensive line? I think it's Dak. I think he's natural. I think he's special in terms of his leadership skills. He can relate to all factions on our football team, whether it's an offensive line group, a receiver group, a DB group. I just think he has the it factor. And, of course, he's so driven to be the best. And that's his goal, is to be the best quarterback that ever played for the Cowboys. Now, that's a high bar when you're talking about Troy Aikman, Roger Staubach, and Tony Romo. But I know he believes he can get there, and certainly we're behind him 100%. But, and the other thing I mentioned in terms of leadership is just that offensive line group as a whole. They just have a presence, and I think they're the best in the business as a group. Obviously, if you break them down individually, there's probably the best tackle, the best guard, the best center in the league as well. So, it just leads me to feel really good about our situation. I think it'll be very competitive, though, both on the field and off the field in terms of the leadership.
All right, Stephen, stay with us here. When we come back later in the show, we're going to talk about some defensive position battles and also some contracts here. So, Stephen Jones, stay with us here. We'll go back to George in studio.
We'll have more from Stephen Jones in a bit, but first we'll hear from head coach Jason Garrett and some of the players who will talk about the youth of this year's football team. That's up next on Cowboys Special Edition, brought to you by AT&T.
Special Edition, presented by AT&T, is brought to you by Ford. Visit your local Texas Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas. Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. The Salvation Army, doing the most good. And by AT&T. More for your thing. That's our thing. Here we go. This segment is brought to you by the Texas Lottery. Play the Dallas Cowboys scratch ticket from the Texas Lottery today. It's your ticket for a chance to win big.
Welcome back to Cowboys Special Edition, brought to you by AT&T. Well, there's no question that the Cowboys have undergone major changes during the past few years. As a result, the team has gotten a whole lot younger. With youth comes the process of learning the pro game, finding new leaders, and creating a new identity. It's a road that certainly has a positive outlook. The Cowboys may have finished the season last year with a winning record, but they failed to earn a trip to the playoffs. This year, they hope to change that, as Dak Prescott starts his third season as a starting quarterback after replacing an aging Tony Romo in 2016. Prescott continues to learn on the job with a young team that the coaching staff hopes will grow up in a hurry.
We only have 3 guys who are 30 or over. 2 of them are specialists. So if you look at the offense and defensive side of the ball, there's a lot of guys who are in their 20s, a lot of guys in their early and mid 20s. And I don't think that's unique to us. I think the league is trending younger in recent years. I think the rules are set up that way. The salary cap is set up that way. And we've been a young team for a few years now.
As of now, 45 of the 90 players headed to training camp were not on the roster last year. Leadership within the team is still a work in progress.
Me and a lot of guys have embraced it, of stepping up and being a leader. As we said, when Witten left, it kind of made us all step up. We all had to embrace that role because Witt was a guy that took care of everything, whether it was talking to Coach Garrett or whether it was just getting on the team or breaking the team down or breaking the offense down. It's made a lot of guys. Travis, Zach, Zeke, myself. On defense, there's a bunch of guys. There's cornerbacks, Cheeto, Sean, obviously. So, we've got the right people in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of young guys. You start looking at the birthdays, realize that you're 10 years older than some of the guys, and it's fun to have some of the young guys. They bring enthusiasm, they're great, but it definitely gives you a sense of urgency that, for me, hey, we need to make a move now, win now, and my impact's got to be greater than it ever has been.
On offense, the oldest projected starter is 27. The goal is to build a team that's successful in the near future and a team that will stay together for a long time. Last year, the Cowboys ranked in the middle of the pack age-wise at 26. We'll see what the average age is this year when the final 53-man roster is determined. It should drop dramatically. Well, coming up next, we take a look back at the monumental career of tight end Jason Witten as Cowboys Special Edition, brought to you by AT&T, continues.
Here we go. This segment is brought to you by Ford. Visit your local Texas Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas.
Welcome back to Cowboys Special Edition, brought to you by AT&T. Well, Cowboys tight end Jason Witten retired this past spring to take a job working as an analyst for Monday Night Football. It was an opportunity that was just too good to pass up. He left with 15 years of experience, during which time he compiled a long list of team records. He was a third-round pick from Tennessee back in 2003. He's a guy the Cowboys will miss in more ways than one.
Yeah, boy, yeah, everybody's blonde-haired boy, blue-eyed All-American boy, one to tight end. Yeah, that's him.
What are we working on here? What's the drill?
Blitz.
Blitz. So even if you're on the show team, if it's blitz, wouldn't you kind of think the ball might be coming out a little quicker?
Yes, sir.
So
He's one of the great Cowboys ever now. There's no doubt about that. I think he's for sure Hall of Fame tight end.
It's a 29, bootleg to the right by Carter, throws it out, caught by Witten, the big rookie tight end, and he's down to his left, to right, Quincy with time, hit, throws it over the middle, Witten caught it, first down at the 35. And the snap back, and he throws it out to the 10, Cadu, a big stick put on Witten.
We saw his work ethic through camp. Now he's against the Cardinals, breaks his jaw. And there's two kinds of players that will sustain an injury like that and only miss one game. One kind is a guy who doesn't have enough sense to come in out of the ring. The other is the kind who's made of the stuff that he's made of.
Back with time, deep middle, Witten lost his helmet, keeps running without a hat. 15 to the 10 to the 6.
They've been drafting 2 or 3 tight ends for years around here, and they don't get on the field very much. But when you're behind Jason Witten, it just you don't really have much of a chance to play.
Leg to the right, flushed out, throws it up to Witten at the 18, and he's blasted down.
Yeah, it was just 24 days ago, Al, that Witten suffered a lacerated spleen against the Raiders. So he told me earlier he feels great. He also told me this isn't about him trying to be a hero. This is about being a team leader and playing in games when they matter.
He was determined to play. He told me that in Oxnard when it first happened. I'm going to be ready for the Giant game. He's probably the most dedicated football player I've ever been around.
I've had so many guys I've looked up to, like Witten.
Throwing the ball to Jason Witten, being around Jason Witten, being in this locker room, you know it's expected to be a Dallas Cowboy.
Second and goal. Now he throws it in the end zone. Jason Witten, touchdown. Cowboys win.
There have been a lot of amazing football players who've played in this franchise since 1960. Okay, there's no player that started more consecutive games. There's no player that's played in more games. Okay, he's a 10-time Pro Bowler, but that's not the story. The story is what he does every single day. He's an inspiration to me, the coaching staff, and I know to you guys. Jason Witten.
Number 82, Jason Witten. Jason's right there at the top 5 of all the men, owners, commissioners, players that I've met in the NFL. Not players, people. He exudes character and class. And Jason, I've never been prouder. Last year when we opened our training camp, and there you were with all the survivors of those brave policemen that are dead. And there you were with all of them recognizing what they've done for the city of Dallas. Our mayor's here. Thank you, Jason.
There we go. What's up, buddy? Yeah.
Well, I think leadership means being able to stand up when adversity hits. You know, oftentimes we hear about leadership and what makes great leaders, and we connect it with only success. And I think with leadership, it's just having a servant's mindset, taking that approach. We wanted to put positive role models to young kids that didn't have that in their life, that had similar challenges that I had, in many cases a lot worse, trying to make a difference, be a shining light in these kids' lives, and to create an opportunity for them to go chase their dreams.
Coach, you talk a lot about passion, emotion, enthusiasm. Our team had it, but sometimes that didn't equal win.
You know, be your best regardless of circumstances is often talked about, and it's been ingrained in my life at a very young age, and I think that's important.
Well, it's just a matter of time now before Jason Witten is inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Only one other tight end in the history of the league had more receptions and receiving yards than Witten, and that's Tony Gonzalez. Gonzalez, by the way, is eligible for the induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2019. Well, coming up, we'll rejoin Nick Eatman as he continues his conversation with Stephen Jones as Cowboys Special Edition, brought to you by AT&T, continues.
This segment is brought to you by AT&T. More for your thing. That's our thing.
One of the priorities of the Cowboys during the offseason was to extend Zach Martin's contract, who is going into this final year of his rookie deal. Stephen Jones was in the middle of those talks and explains the process and the reasoning behind those talks with Nick Eatman.
Thanks, George. And yes, we are back here with Stephen Jones and getting really close to training camp. And one thing I love about training camp in Oxnard, it's the only place really where things can heat up and cool down at the same time. I mean, that's why you go out there, to kind of get away from some of this heat, but you really get some good training in there.
Well, I think, rather than players like we were at Wichita Falls and Austin and they were just trying to survive. At Oxnard, you can really get down to business and focus on getting better each and every play, learning the system, learning the techniques that our coaches want our players to master. And I just think they get a lot out of it. The other thing is just getting away, I think, from the normal day of life in their life. I mean, you have wives or girlfriends, children, all those things can be distractions. And I think our coaches love it that we get away for 2.5, 3 weeks where they can totally focus on the game and really get, set the foundation for the upcoming season.
I definitely appreciate you guys going to Wichita Falls for sure. That was fun. Talking about Zach Martin, got him locked up here for a long time, maybe hopefully for the rest of his playing career here. Just what he means to that offensive line and just being able to get that contract done over the summer.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I think he's the best guard in the business. When I was negotiating with his agents, they would say, well, he's the best, and I said, I agree. And, the question.
Does that help you or hurt you when that happens?
Well, I don't think it hurts us because we were going to make him the highest paid guard. It was just by what degree.
Right.
And certainly, not only the great thing about Zach, he's not only a great football player and the best guard in the NFL, in my opinion, he's a better man off the field. And he brings some of that toughness, some of that leadership that we're talking about that we'll miss with Jason Witten. I think you'll see the Zach Martins and the Tyron Smiths and the Travis Frederick step up.
Real quick about the safety position, though. I want to talk about position battle there. There was a lot of talk about bringing in veterans, but just talk about what you like out of Xavier Woods, Kayvon Frazier, some of these young guys there.
Well, first of all, I have to start out of respect with Heath. He's such a versatile guy. He can play deep, he can play down. Chris Rissard, our new coach, just really likes him. He's a leader. He plays the game the way you want to play. He can be a core special teams player. He's just got all the versatility you need. But in terms of someone who's really exciting us is Xavier Woods. And certainly we gave up a pick in the future to move up to pick him in the 6th round last year because we had him in the top of the 4th, and he has not disappointed in one bit. He's a ball hawk. He gets his hands on balls. He's a very serious-minded football player, and he's exceeded expectations in terms of what we think he can be, and it's not going to surprise me a bit if he wins that job there along with Heath. Of course, Kayvon, when the pads come on, is when he shows up. He doesn't do his best work in his grays, but boy, when you talk about a football player and you put that helmet on, he's going to pack a punch.
All right, well, Stephen, what do you say we trade these jackets in for some polos next week when we go out to Oxnard?
I'm ready.
All right.
I'm ready to get down to business.
We'll be talking about some of those guys in the first week of practice next week when we are in Oxnard for the start of training camp. All right, George, back to you.
Coming up, we'll have some final thoughts as the Cowboys get ready for another training camp as Dallas Cowboys Special Edition, brought to you by AT&T, continues.
Here we go.
Welcome back to Cowboys Special Edition, brought to you by AT&T. Well, next week, the Dallas Cowboys will report for another training camp in Oxnard. It'll be their 7th straight year that they have trained there. That's their 10th overall, still way short of the 27 years that they spent in Thousand Oaks. The competition for roster spots promises to be fierce as the team looks for virtually a whole new set of wide receivers. Also wide open is the tight end position. There's also a fresh competition at left guard. It all makes for some interesting stories that we'll be featuring here on Cowboys Special Edition. So be sure to join us again next week as we bring you the latest from Cowboys training camp. For the rest of the staff and anyone associated with the Dallas Cowboys, I'm George Reba. Have a great day.
Special Edition, presented by AT&T, was brought to you by Ford. Visit your local Texas Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. AT&T, more for your thing. That's our thing. And by NFL Game Pass. Subscribe at DallasCowboys.com/Game Pass.